We aren't where we want to be, and you aren't either. Together, we will walk this path. That's what paving the path is. It is us showing you the path we're walking so that we can walk together to create the world that we want to live in, the world we want to leave our kids in. This is the show. Good afternoon, everybody. I am so excited to bring Abel with Hidden Talent to the table. Abel and we've been building a relationship, what, 6 months now?
Yeah, yeah, I
Off
think
and on?
yeah, since the
Uh,
beginning of the year. So yeah, we've been excited to partner up and glad I was able to meet Justin. So
exactly. So it's been a long time in building, and Abel's talent is HR, which is something near and dear to my heart because how we take care of employees, how we find them and nurture them is one of I believe, the most important sales job any CEO or president has is building up that team. So
yeah,
the conversation today is around people and how how do we help them? How do we find the right people to help us? And how do we build those relationships? Now, before we dive into that conversation, the first question I like to ask is, who the heck are you? Who's Abel? Tell us kind of your backstory, your history, how you got into this.
yeah. So Justin, thanks for having me today. So I'm Abel Johnson. I own Hidden Talent. I am originally from the state of New Mexico, from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Shout out to UNM down there, the Lobos. But yeah, I served a mission for my church back east in New York City. And after I came off that, I was looking for colleges and ended up here in Idaho, applied to a college here, and wasn't sure what Idaho was all about. Never really visited Idaho. But I came here and I met my significant other who's from the Meridian area and got roots planted here. I love the state of Idaho. I stayed for the outdoors adventures and lakes and rivers and hiking. So I'm married. I've got four little kiddos. You know, they're still young. They keep me busy on top of running a business and being an entrepreneur and all being a father, which is one of the greatest callings I have and I enjoy very much. So that's a little bit about me. I love people too. It's cool that we're talking about this. I got into the world of HR, in college, kind of fell upon it. Wasn't something I was planning on graduating or pursuing, but I think there's a running joke of most HR people. No one really plans on being in HR. It just kind of happens along the way somewhere in your career. But I'm excited to be here and I'm glad to talk about people. That's one of the things I'm passionate about.
Awesome. So, when it comes to people, uh, what are some of the key things? A so my opinion, and let's start with just a conversation around people. My opinion is one of the most important things any leader will do is determine what culture they want and try to find the right people to join that culture.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that and any recommendations on making that happen?
Yeah, so I've been blessed to be, before starting my business, I've been in HR and recruiting for 12 years. I've been in corporations very large, thousands of employees, all the way to hundreds of employees. And culture is always something that we speak of and talk about, from an HR standpoint, in every facet of the life cycle of an employee. But in building a business, from our CEOs, what we do, culture is always kind of the heart of everything, right?
Right.
In the world that we live in, we speak of culture a lot. There's a lot of companies out there who talk about culture, right? They show it. Maybe they show it in certain ways, whether it be a retreat or certain rooms that they have for employees on their campus or their employee headquarters or office space. But really, to me, when it comes down to it, when you boil down culture, it's really how you treat your people and how they feel about their environment. So I think so often in recruiting and hiring, we always like to talk about culture in the job ad, or we like to show that we have a pool table and a snack bar and these other cool things, this gym membership. And some of that can contribute to how you treat people and the message you're sending them. But at the end of the day, when you strip all that away, it really is about how people feel working for you, being in the office, and about the mission that they're set out to do with your company.
I love that. And I think I actually totally agree with that. I think culture originally, when it first became kind of a buzzword,
Yeah, yeah.
um, right? And software companies and oh, we got our ping pong tables, we've got all this stuff.
Right,
I think it pulled the definition of culture away from what it truly is,
right,
which is that feeling, that emotion around where you work,
right.
and made it more of a physical thing about what the
Yeah,
work provides for you. Does that
yeah.
make any sense?
100%. So I think what you're saying is kind of rings true to my heart near and dear, which is what our mission is at Hidden Talent, which is to create a better world of recruiting. And we do that through creating what we have named and coined a white glove recruitment experience. And we do that experience both for applicants and our clients. It's not just something for just the clients that work with us. We want to create a good experience for people that are applying to the job, that read our job ad, that interview with us and with our clients. We want to create a good experience because, again, what to you're saying, it's not about the ping pong tables, it's not about the gym memberships, it's not about the cool snack bars. It's about how people feel. And one of the biggest indicator of how someone feels about your company starts at the very first impression with a company in the hiring, right? It starts in the job ad. It starts before they even enter your room, before they talk with any recruiters or hiring managers who reach out. It's how they perceive your company, and not just the physical attributes, but how people are treated. So I think that's a big truth right there.
I love that. And how often, I don't know if you've seen any videos about someone went in for an interview and the way they got treated
Yeah,
caused them to go to social media or
yeah,
whatever and talk about, and what they're talking about is the culture of that company.
yeah. No, it's true, and unfortunately, we see both sides of that, right? We see and hear the concerns from employers who are wanting to find talent and some of the barriers that they're running into. Maybe turnover's high, and we kind of investigate why that is. And then we also hear the job seeker side. Hey, to your point, Justin, like I went in for an interview, or I had 5 rounds of interviews, and then nobody followed up with me, and I got ghosted, right? So we're seeing all of these frustrations kind of on both ends of the fence. And it really kind of disheartens us because our goal is to bring those two worlds together, right? Job seekers and employers. And I think the way we do that is by helping educate both sides and listening to both sides as to how do we connect the two. And it's through that experience, right? So often in recruiting, we talk about recruiting and hiring is like dating, right? And we kind of have always said that. Well, if you're a mediator on a date, you want things to go well, but you might need to coach both sides, right? The one side and the one other party, right? And sometimes I think that's all it really takes is really the education and the openness to help them see, maybe you shouldn't put them through 6 rounds of interviews before you commit, right? And on the job seeker side, maybe you should practice your interviewing dating skills, right? Before you get to the table, right? So yeah, we see that a lot, Justin. And our goal again is to just not just fill roles, but to really bring our recruiting world up to where the standards really should be. And we do that through how we recruit and how we treat people, which is hopefully a reflection on the company's culture, as you talked about.
I love that. So it's all in the process that you're performing throughout that recruitment that differentiates that company. Is that what you're
It
saying?
is. Yeah. So we really pride ourselves on being thorough in our hiring. And so there's kind of a difference between headhunting and recruiting and talent acquisition. and I won't get too much into that, but we don't just send people resumes and be like, hey, if you hire them, great. We like to get in and be collaborative and be holistic in our hiring with the hiring manager or the client, so that we can kind of coach and educate and give suggestions to kind of create them that better hiring process. Because the devil's in the details, right? Like where you mess up is in the details. So for example, so often we hear, I applied to the job and I got rejected right away, or I didn't hear back at all, right? Or I interviewed for in person and then I didn't even get a phone call back and didn't get any feedback as to why I didn't get the job, right? And
Right.
so for us, we want to change that. We want when we're with clients, when someone interviews with us, whether it's phone or video or in person, I call them back and I let them know, over phone, in person, like, I'm sorry, we didn't go with you, and here's some reasons why, and here's maybe what we can do better. So again, the details
Wow.
matter, that experience matters. And it's funny that we're talking about this. I made a post today about also how hiring is kind of like going out to a restaurant. And when you have a bad experience at a restaurant, you tend to walk away from that experience thinking, I'm not going back there to eat. Like, I'm not going to write a good review, right? And then when your friend says, hey, have you been to that pizza joint on the corner? Oh, no, don't go there. We went there. We got food poisoning. And so that bad review can really travel really fast, right? It can go back into the community, and then it leaves a bad taste in someone's mouth and that reputation of that company. So we're trying to change all that.
I love that. And it's so true. One bad experience with any company, whether it's
Right.
as a potential employee, whether it's as a client, whether it's as a current employee, one bad experience can be the domino that really takes down the entire organization
Yeah. Yeah,
because
and it really does. And it's not to say that no company is perfect. We all make mistakes. I think what job seekers want most is transparency and accountability. I think they want to know why they didn't get the job. I think they deserve to know why you went through 5 interviews, or what the hiring process looks like and how long it'll take. And I think so often they're disappointed because there's not really any accountability to hold that company responsible, right, for the time it took or why we're doing this. And they're kind of at the mercy of, I need the job, so I can't complain, right? And
right.
so we're trying to change that a little bit. And I think, again, it's not a change on just the employers or just the job seekers, but I think that a little bit of both, bringing them together, will change all of that. And the great thing is as we change the recruiting world, we all benefit, right? You, me, others, our children, our neighbors, because we all need livelihood. We all need jobs. And as we all do better and as the bar gets set higher, hopefully that peer pressure in a good way will make all employers be like, hey, it's kind of standard nowadays. Like we are accountable and we need to be quicker and we need to give feedback. And so we all benefit from that.
I love that. So I love your mission of changing I'm going to say the dynamic between the employee and employer and how you go about doing that. Tell me, or so my audience, who I speak to, are small business owners and employees a lot of the time.
Right.
So, with that in mind, what are some of the things you're doing to change that dynamic here in the good old United States of America?
Yeah. For small businesses, it's so often we hear it's hard to recruit because they're competing against these larger companies, right? And so, they may not be able to pay top dollar. And what I always tell them is, you know, there's an Achilles heel for those big companies that pay top dollar. And again, it's the culture, it's the how they treat you, it's the growth, it's all the little things that don't seem like they matter up front. You want the big salary, you want a lot of money, maybe stability. But then I hear people get into those organizations and they're frustrated with the culture, right? They're very much far removed from the decision makers or the CEO. And so, everything has its vices, right? Everything has its pros and cons. And so I always tell small businesses, you're not going to be able to compete with the big giant companies, the Googles and Apples out there on pay. But what you do have to offer, somebody is willing to come work for you for that, right? Everybody's passions and desires are different, and really to do a better job to market those things. So I'll give you an example. I have a client or a few clients that are in the municipal local government, the city of Boise or Bellevue or fill in the blank. They don't pay top dollar, but what they do offer is flexibility. They work from home, a hybrid schedule, no travel, a PERSI retirement through the state. Once you're vested, you get retirement, 6 weeks of paid time off a year. And so, those are the things that they really need to tap into and market to themselves and to the world when they recruit. Testimonials from others that are currently working there, looking at, advertising the length of tenure that their employees stay with them, right? So those are things that really send a different message to the right job seeker over the person who's just looking for the most money, right? And so for those businesses out there that you're speaking of to your audience, I would caution, and I would kind of ask you to commit to thinking about how you can market yourself differently and how you can market what you bring of value to the world and to those job seekers. And I promise you that they're out there and they're looking for you. And so going to them and marketing yourself in that way, in that light, can really help.
I love that. It reminds me of a Sandler rule. So I did Sandler for about 10 years in my history. And the rule is prospects buy for their reasons, not your reasons.
Right. Right.
And employees sign up for their reasons, not your reasons. And they could be taking a 50% pay cut to work for you for flexibility or for security. Like if they're going from a commission role to a non-commission role, they could be well aware of the change, but the reason they're doing it, you won't know unless you ask them.
Right. And so often, we screen out people that don't fit what's in our head, right, as an employer. So if they don't have the bachelor's in that specific field and that many years of experience, so often employers will just screen them out. And the reality is like, there's so much hidden talent, hence our name, right, out there, that you have to have the right lens and perspective on. And though in our world, in the labor market is changing, right? And so a lot of people aren't going to college anymore. They're going through trades, they're getting certifications, but they're still just as capable, and the potential is there to be just as good of an employee as the person sitting next to them with a bachelor's and 5 years of experience. But it really takes the right education and vulnerability on the employer side to really be open to that. And sometimes it's hard to make that change when that's all you've ever done and known.
That's such a good point. So you mentioned vulnerability on the employer side. What are some of the things an employer could or should be vulnerable about when it comes to the hiring process?
Yeah, so there's so many. Good question, Justin. So, one of the things at the very front is how you write the job ad that you're posting out to the world, right? And the language you use, and how you present yourself, but also the pay, right? So often employers don't list the pay on their job ad. And there's many reasons for this, and I'll just share a few of those today. But one is they know that they are under the market. They can't pay and be competitive to those that are in another organization that pay top dollar, right? So their thought is, let's not share the salary. Let's get someone to come in because of they love the mission and the organization. And then when we get to the phone interview or second interview, then we'll talk about pay. And sounds like a decent strategy from an employer's perspective. From a job seeker's perspective, they feel like sometimes it's a waste of time, right? They want to know up front what that looks like, right? They want to not chase something that, they may love the mission, but they have to feed their family, right? And they have to have a certain salary to do that. And so those are things to be vulnerable, right? Do we do that? Do we not? And so employers and job seekers, this is a battle, right? Between like, do I show them my cards? Do I show them what I have in my hand? Or do I wait, right? And so
Right.
that vulnerability comes in different phases and in different ways, but that's one example of how to do that. There are others, how we interview and how many steps it takes to get the hire, to get the person we think is awesome. And what questions do we ask? And what questions do the job seekers ask us? And how do we respond to those questions? There's employers that have done massive layoffs. And I've actually coached job seekers to look into the company, understand the company itself, know their history a little bit. And so sometimes it's asking, hey, I've noticed you guys have done some layoffs last year. Can you tell me what happened or why? And do you expect any of those layoffs to happen this year? And that's a legitimate question. You want to know as a job seeker, is there stability here a little bit, right? But from an employer's perspective, that's a little bit being vulnerable, right? Like how will they respond and answer to that? So those are some ideas of when employers can be vulnerable, and sometimes they feel like it hurts them. But in my heart, I really feel like honesty is the best policy. And when you do it, and the timing is can be up for debate in how you do it. But I think you create a better, again, culture and brand of who your company is and what you stand for if you do those things.
That's awesome. I love the thought of bringing that vulnerability to the table, because I in my history, when I've been job hunting, it is so hard to figure out what this company really is about,
Right.
or for them to figure out what you're really about,
Right.
from one page. It's like,
Yes.
here, you're going to come spend 40 hours a week with us, 60 hours, whatever it is.
Right.
You're going to spend all this time with us, but we expect you to make that decision based off one article that you can read in 5 minutes.
Yeah. It's difficult. And that job ad really is a marketing tool for for employers, right? It's really that help wanted, come work for us, here's why we're amazing, right? And it kind of should be treated as such, right? So as a job seeker, it's supposed to catch your eye. It's supposed to, make you look at them, and if it's doing its job, attract you to them to read it. But it really is up to the job seeker to do the due diligence, to go through that process, to ask the right questions, to listen to their heart and their head along the way, and determine if that's the right fit for them. And at the same time, the employer is doing the same thing from their perspective. So it really is a dating game. It really is a matchmaker kind of dance sometimes, and it feels that way. And we have rules and processes and structure to it, but sometimes it does. This is a gray area, or how do I answer that, or this feels weird, and it is an art sometimes more than a craft, right?
Right. It is. It is. I love that saying. It's art more than a craft,
Yeah.
or more than a process, right?
Yep. It takes the right
Because
person.
everything is going to change based on every individual you talk to and
Yeah.
talk to. So, Abel, it sounds like there is a lot you bring to the table as I'm going to call you an HR consultant. Is that okay?
Yeah,
Or,
we're a strategic hiring consultant. We focus within HR on the hiring piece more than
okay.
the other elements within HR. So it's more the hiring.
Okay. So, your core competency is in hiring,
Yes.
and it's in helping. Hey, I'm guessing you help small businesses find and differentiate themselves from some of those bigger businesses, especially when you can't afford the paycheck that the bigger
Right.
business affords.
Yes. Yeah. We do focus on the small to mid-sized businesses. And we do what we like to say is we can fish for them. We can go out and recruit, but we also like to focus on the consultancy side of teaching them how to fish so that they can be reliant and sustainable long term after we've moved on, or we've had that that filled that role for them so that they can have that structure in place. And so some of the consultants that you're talking about has been the arm of our business that's growing, where it's more of, hey, we do hiring audits to kind of assess what you're doing well in your hiring, what things you can do better, how you can get your time to fill shorter so you can move faster, more efficient, right? Do you have a hiring policy? Do you have a hiring procedures kind of mapped out? Do you have some recruiters that we can put through a training to get them kind of more seasoned and know how to recruit? So the consultancy side of our business has been something that we have enjoyed and continue to grow.
That's amazing. So if someone was listening and they're working on hiring, working on building a better, more cohesive team, how would they get a hold of you to get some help around doing that?
Yeah, great question, Justin. So they can visit our website at hirehiddentalent.com. Hire as if you're going to hire somebody. Or you can reach us at 208-994-1830. We also have a LinkedIn business page that's growing. We've been super blessed with that. And we put out content all the time, pro tips for job seekers and employers. And we offer full free consultations and to meet up and discuss your needs. So we're always happy to help in any way we can. And our approach is very collaborative and holistic. You know, with my background in HR and being an HR director and other areas I've served within HR, I've chosen hiring because it's something that I'm passionate about, but I do have that lens of performance management and how a bad hire can lead to that, and pay and compensation, these other things. But again, our passion's in the hiring piece and creating a good experience and getting someone on and excited. And that's really what drives us. That's our why.
I love that. So one thing I caught out of all of that is your LinkedIn page, where you're doing a lot of coaching and training to both the hiree and the hirer.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, that is correct.
To me, if you are in a role, so this is to our listeners, if you're in a role for hiring, if that is part of your responsibility, I would highly recommend go follow the Hidden Talent LinkedIn page. Because if you're getting content on both the hiree and hirer side, you're getting the playbook from someone who's doing this day in, day out for multiple industries.
Right.
And I think that is a piece that a lot of businesses miss, is every industry is different. And so if you're working with a consultant who works in multiple industries, they're able to bring value to the table that you wouldn't even know was at the table, because it came from the beauty space when you're doing software sales or whatever it is.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I appreciate you shouting that out and kind of calling that out, Justin, because sometimes I get so passionate that I kind of forget that there is tremendous value here, right? One of the things you mentioned that employers that I consult with employers is listen to your job seekers, listen to what they are saying, listen to the exit data and surveys as to feedback on your hiring process, because they really are in a sense your clients. Even if you don't hire them, they can be your biggest client as far as giving you feedback and how you can be better. And sometimes it takes certain employers a minute to understand that, but it takes them talking with me for me to reiterate them that information for them to understand that. But it is a big tool that can change how you recruit.
That is awesome. So we're wrapping up this show today. What is one strategy or tactic that you think any small business could implement that would help them increase their skill when it comes to hiring?
Yeah, small businesses, a lot of them are on the social media platforms and building their brand, but I would just encourage you to continue to really put some emphasis on building your brand and being visible, right? Employers want to know, what is a day in the life of John, right? What does this job look like, right? They want the visuals. They want maybe a video. They want they want to hear what's going on in your company. And I see so many job seekers talking to me about jobs and employers that they want to get into, and I go find them, and they're just not active on social media. They're not they have a LinkedIn page, but there's 50 people and there's no post for like a year. So
Right.
my thing would be build your brand, because your brand is who you are and what you stand for, that's going to attract or repel the type of people that you want to come work for you. And so my biggest thing would just be that. And if I could squeeze in another one, Justin, I
Yeah,
will.
do it.
Um,
Do it.
be humanistic and be empathetic a little bit, employers. And what I mean by that is, like, sometimes we're very hard and quick to judge, like, so and so didn't, they were 5 minutes late to their phone interview, and that's a bad sign. And but life sometimes happens, and if you investigate a little bit. I had someone who I hired for an employer, and they were there for a week, and then on the 8th day they didn't show up to work. And the employer called me back, and in a frantic, we tried to figure out what was wrong. It turns out his wife was in a car accident, and he had to jump up and leave. And he tried to call his boss. He couldn't get signal, but he had to leave to go to the hospital to attend to his wife. And I think the employer was just like all ready to fire them. And so I'm not saying that we should give somebody, a foot, right? Don't give them a mile, but give a little bit of empathy and understanding in your hiring. And I think you'll find that as you do that, as you're transparent, as you create a great experience in your hiring, job seekers will appreciate that, and that return will be tenfold.
I love that. And that is such a great last word. So, as we wrap up, one more time, how would someone get a hold of you if they wanted help be getting to that next level in hiring?
Yeah, please visit our website at hirehiddentalent.com, or follow us on LinkedIn at Hidden Talent. And again, all our contact information, you can look at our services. We have testimonials from other people we've worked with in the industry. We do serve all of Idaho and some of the Mountain West as we're growing, but our focus really here is in Idaho. So please reach out. We'd love to help you in any way we can.
Awesome. I love it. Well, thank you everybody for joining in to Paving the Path. This show is about us not being where we want to go, but walking that path together. Because at the end of the day, we are a team. We all are working towards the common good, and that's worth it for all of us. So I'm Justin here with Abel, and we will talk to y'all soon.
Thank you, Justin.